interrupt your regularly scheduled Watch It Bro podcast programming on this lovely Thanksgiving Day to bring you yet another Watch It Bro special feature.
Woohoo!
Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
But it being Thanksgiving today, we want to wish everybody out there a happy Thanksgiving. And no Thanksgiving can go by. Well, I guess everyone after this one will, without us talking about planes, trains, and automobiles.
I mean, you can listen to this next year too.
Sure, but we're not going to talk about it again next year.
Planes, trains, and automobiles, the retrospective of the podcast we did last year.
We could just keep doing a re-listen podcast every Thanksgiving, but who wants to do that? But this
Not
was
me.
I left you an opening to say it, so
I didn't have a good comeback.
no, but yeah, this was, I mean, and still is a Thanksgiving tradition for me.
Oh yeah, it's my favorite Thanksgiving movie by far.
How many other Thanksgiving movies do you know?
I don't know.
There's another one. Oh, what was it called? With Al Bundy. What's his name?
Ed O'Neill?
Yeah, Ed O'Neill. I think it's called. Let's see. Yeah, it's called Dutch, and it's also by John Hughes.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna call Addams Family Values a Thanksgiving movie.
Yeah,
I mean, it's got the Thanksgiving pageant in it.
it does, but it's summer camp.
It's still a Thanksgiving pageant. It feels very Thanksgiving-y.
Yeah, kinda does.
So you get Halloween with Adam's family, family values for Thanksgiving, and then
Christmas
watch
Vacation.
watch.
Sure,
I wonder why
right?
they never did a Thanksgiving vacation.
I don't know.
I feel like we talked about this on the Vegas vacation episode.
I don't think we did.
Probably not. Oh, what was the pitch? A Swiss Family Griswolds.
Yeah. That turned into Christmas Vacation 2, starring Cousin Eddie.
It did. We will not be touching on that movie.
Season 2 is going to be long.
Oh gosh. Have we dawdled enough?
That was Marshall just fearing the possibility of Christmas Vacation 2 happening this season. But $10 says he'll still like it better than McHale's Navy.
I'm giving thumbs up, and no one can see it.
That's right. So
I guess we get into the specs on this one, right?
we could.
Did we tell people what we were watching already? Oh yes,
Planes,
that was it's my favorite Thanksgiving movie.
yes, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. It was written, directed, and produced by the late and great John Hughes.
Yes, a man of many movies of the '80s. Actually,
And
most
early,
of the movies of the '80s.
yeah, if you watch a movie from the 80s or the early 90s, and it was based in Chicago, odds are John Hughes had something to do with it.
Yeah, yes. I mean, he's from Chicago, so all of his movies are set in Chicago or Chicago adjacent.
Yeah, either they're starting in Chicago or they're trying to get to Chicago.
Yes.
And in some instances, both.
Mhm.
It's starring Steve Martin, who you know from, I mean,
The
if you're
Jerk
older, The Jerk,
by the dozen.
Cheaper by the Dozen, you said?
Yep.
Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid,
Father of the Bride.
Father of the Bride Part 2, his
Dirty Rotten
stand-up.
Scoundrels.
I saw that for the first time recently.
Did you?
Yeah, Rachel made me watch it. She's like, you'll love it. It's great. It was okay.
What was that other one he was in? Roxanne?
Roxanne, yes, the retelling of
Cyrano de Bergerac.
yeah. It's also starring Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That is the late great John Candy.
From The Great Outdoors.
Yes, he was also in Uncle Buck. I almost said he was
Yes.
also in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, but that is in fact the movie we are talking about right now.
That is.
He had a bit part in Home Alone,
Yep.
and he was the announcer in Rookie of the Year.
He was. He was also the security guard in Vacation.
Yes, he was at Wally World.
Yep.
Unfortunately, he passed away in 1994 of a heart attack while filming Wagons East.
Which feels very similar to Almost Heroes, in my opinion.
Yeah, I guess kind of that westerny kind of feel.
Westerny Oregon Trail-ish type movie.
Yeah,
Because I keep
the
getting
one-
confused.
yeah. Well, one's going east and the other's going west. Eh?
Eh.
This movie was released November 25th, 1987. So this is, I was gonna say it's definitely a Thanksgiving movie, but duh.
You good?
Yeah, I'm okay. It had a budget of 15 million. At the box office, it made 40.9 million.
But this is a classic quintessential road trip movie.
And a quintessential Thanksgiving movie.
I mean, it's the Thanksgiving movie.
Fair.
We've covered this.
And here's a fun fact.
Oh, I like fun facts.
It might be fun, it might not be fun, depending on your opinion. There are currently 2 remakes of this movie in the works.
There's there are 2 remakes of this movie in the
There
works.
are 2 remakes of this in the works. One is starring Kevin Hart and Will Smith in the title roles. The other is Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
I'm more excited for the Adam Sandler one. Him and Drew Barrymore have good chemistry, and their other 2 movies they did together are quite good. 50 First Dates and The Wedding Singer.
We're not going to mention the third one they did already.
I don't know what that one is.
Neither do I.
I don't know if they did a third one yet.
I thought I heard I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. They're always fun to see together. But yes, those 2 are in the works right now.
There was a movie that came out a few years back with Robert Downey Jr. and I think it was Zach Galifianakis
Yeah.
that was called Due Date.
I
I
don't know why
think
you're asking me.
if you had ever heard of it, but it's very similar to this, where Robert Downey Jr. is the I don't want to say stuffy, but the more the straight man of the group trying to get back to kid having a baby or wife having a baby or something like that, and Zach Galifianakis is the unlikely traveling companion because of a necessity. Basically, it felt very much in this vein, just different premise.
Oh. Was it good?
Eh,
Eh, unfortunate.
yeah.
All right. So I take that. Does that wrap up our specs for this thing?
I think
Can
so.
we
Do we have
move
anything else
along?
do we have anything else to say? I mean, we've just talked about a bunch of people that aren't in this movie.
More than we talked about the people in the movie.
John Candy was also in Stripes.
Stop it.
Okay.
All right. Well, you want to go on a road trip?
Let's go on a road trip.
All right. Let's see if we can make it back to Chicago by Thanksgiving.
We're starting in New York, right?
We are starting with the Paramount logo.
Yeah. Logo love.
And we get that, and then you start hearing New York traffic, and then the title Planes, Trains, and Automobiles goes driving by. And it reveals we are in New York City, and it is 2 days before Thanksgiving. We are in an office on a very high floor where a group of board members, it appears, are sitting around a giant table watching a guy look at 3 poster boards of whatever are their ads,
Yeah.
their potential ads. Which ad is he going to release for the new product line or whatever?
Right. He's deciding which picture, which of these ads is best for their campaign.
Right. And so we get an introduction to Steve Martin's character. I'm going to name him Neil Page right now. And he is
Okay.
talking to the dad from Ferris Bueller.
Who was on a business trip from Chicago.
It shows Neil's ticket, and it says he's got a 6 o'clock flight back to O'Hare Airport in Chicago. And you see him look at his watch, and he's like kind of tapping, getting the attention of the guy across from him, as if he has any power, and says, gotta go, I gotta catch a plane."
Yeah.
And they sit there in silence while the guy hums and haws about it, and then it cuts immediately to them walking out of the office, saying 3 solid hours of looking at material just to decide to reconvene after the holidays.
Yeah, that feels very much like advertising.
Yeah.
I'm reminded of the scene from Hook where they do the draw cell phone thing because
Oh,
it's at
right.
the end of at the end of the business day. I'm like, does that happen in here? No, that doesn't happen here.
No, no, no. No, it
No, no,
doesn't.
no. They don't have cell phones for one.
No, yeah, right. Yeah, yeah, no, Neil doesn't. That's wow. It is that early on, but we get a little bit of foreshadowing. Neil forgets his gloves in Brian's office, the guy looking at the pictures, and he's like, I don't need them. I get in the elevator, I get in the cab, I get on the plane, I go home.
Yeah.
Or so he thinks at this point. So we cut to outside on the streets of New York. It's the
Well,
middle of rush.
and
What?
Brian is like, you're never gonna make it.
That's John.
Oh, okay. John's like,
Brian. Yeah. John's like, you'll never make the 6. So then we cut to outside. We are on the streets of New York. It is rush hour. No one's getting a taxi cab. There's a line for it. We see our first, I don't want to say like celebrity, duh, it's a movie. Uh, but we see it's Kevin Bacon.
Yes, it's our first of many cameos.
First of many cameos. Thank you. We see Kevin Bacon. They lock eyes and they both see a cab that's turns its lights on, meaning it's vacant.
Yep.
And we get them racing down the street.
Yeah, on either side of the street, running, trying to dodge people in front of them, pushing
Yep.
their way through.
First, it looks like Neil's gonna win. Then it looks like unnamed Kevin Bacon's gonna win, and then Steve, Paige, Neil, that's the guy, trips over a giant trunk and falls flat on his face and almost gets run over.
Yes.
And Kevin Bacon victoriously gets the cab, waves at Neil, like, or salutes him, doesn't he?
Gives a little smirk and
Yeah, and haha. And gets in the cab and leaves. And at that point, my wife turned to me and said, "Is he in it anymore? Do we see Kevin Bacon again?" I went, "No." She goes, "Okay."
did she not like Kevin Bacon or not like that character?
I think she was just genuinely curious if he came back.
It's like, is Kevin Bacon in this? Because he's not credited.
Well, yeah, no, because she didn't grow up with this movie.
Okay.
I think she's only seen it like once or twice with me. Because as much as I try to make it a Thanksgiving tradition, we haven't watched it in a while because we usually drive up to your place, and so
Yeah.
we don't really. Your wife doesn't allow it, does she?
She does.
I remember I tried to put it on
Sometimes.
one time, and she very loudly said no. And
That
so I've
might
been
be it.
afraid to ask ever since. But anyway, so we cut to a taxi cab pulling in front of a guy, and Neil sees him and basically tries to buy the cab from him. First, he's like, "Can I appeal to your good nature and ask you to let me have it?" And the guy's like, "I don't have a good nature. Excuse me."
I'm in New York. I don't have good nature.
And so they're haggling over price. Meanwhile, you see you see a guy in the background essentially take it, and the cabbie helps him load it up while they're bickering back and forth. And eventually they settle on 50, and the guy's like, "Well, anyone who paid 50 for a cab would certainly pay 75." And Neil reluctantly agrees to it and gives them the money and wishes them a happy holiday. And the guy's like, "Oh, this'll help." And Neil's like,
Yeah.
"You're a thief," and the guy's like, "Close. I'm an attorney."
Yeah.
And then as Neil turns to get in the cab, it drives off, and he chases it.
He does.
Yep. And so we see Neil.
Pretty angrily.
Yeah, no kidding. He just spent $75 for a cab that he don't get to use.
Yeah.
And so he's hauling. He catches up, opens the door, and as soon as he opens the door, the cab goes off. He drops his stuff in the street.
Yeah.
When the car takes off, and the people swerve to hit his stuff. Very obviously swerve to run over his stuff.
Welcome to New York.
No kidding. Anyway, we cut to the airport. It shows delay going down the list of flights. Then we cut to a family having dinner. Spoilers, it's Neil's family. And we get our second cameo of Matthew Lawrence, who would later go on to have a great career starring in Mrs. Doubtfire and being Jack in Boy Meets World, because Boy Meets World is the best show ever.
I knew you're going to bring up Boy Meets World again.
I have to. I love it so much.
I know you do. You have all of it on DVD.
Twice.
That's fair.
And I listen to the podcast.
It's a good podcast.
Are you listening to the podcast?
Not regularly, but I've listened to bits of it. And by bits of it, I mean episodes here and there.
It's a good podcast. You should listen to it.
It's a good podcast. I've got a lot of podcasts to listen to.
Right, but they have it's a fantastic podcast.
I agree.
It's like it's like okay, the Boy Meets World podcast, Pod Meets World is what it's actually called.
Not
Big Cam,
sponsored.
not sponsor. No, they have no idea that I'm call. They have no idea I exist. So, but just say like it's called Pod Meets World, Boy Meets World podcast. Big Campaign and Dice of Thunder are the three podcasts that I like. Those are the top three that I listen to pretty much before anything else.
Okay.
Those are all the other podcasts that I listen to. They take a backseat. I won't go to them until I'm current on those three.
That's fair.
Yeah, and my Bible studies. Where are we?
Cameo by Matthew Lawrence,
Right.
who ac-
So
who at this point is not a cameo and just a role.
sure.
Kids don't get cameos.
No, they don't. Well, most of the people who appear in this that are big names now and were nobodies back then.
I mean, wouldn't I say nobodies, but character actors, and they move their way through. But yeah.
So they're having dinner. And mom's talking to the kids about who's coming over for Thanksgiving. The phone rings. The daughter's like, "Who is it?" Very rudely. And the mom's like, "It's Daddy." And she's like, "Ah, flight delay." So she's been here before.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we cut from there. Do you have something to say about that?
No.
Cool. So we cut from there and we get Neil and I'm going to name John Candy's character, Dell,
Griffith.
sitting, Dell Griffith. They are sitting from across from each other at the airport and they're reading their books and they're both glancing at each other with that I know you kind of look in their eye. Are you going to point out that John Candy's reading a smutty book?
No, I wasn't going to, but he is definitely reading a smutty book.
That I only picked up on very recently?
I just picked up it on this watch. I'm like, because the TV's bigger than I've really ever seen it on it before. I'm like, what's he reading? Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's one of them romance novels.
It is.
Were you going to say something about this interaction?
I in a second, unless you touch on it.
Okay.
I like the shot we get of Neo recognizing him with the door with John Candy just sitting still in the airport terminal with the taxi door like right in front of him with the shocked look on his face.
Oh yeah, that little
Yeah.
yeah, that was great. I meant to touch on that. I didn't put it in my notes and I was gonna forget, so I'm glad you brought it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I like the bit because it's not like it's not even a flashback to the scene. It's him sitting in the airport terminal with the taxi door.
Yeah, no, it was very good. But that's when you get that aha face on Neil, and that's at the same time. I mean, I'm sure Dell sees it too, and he's like, "Okay, I know this guy, so I better say something." And so Dell introduces himself and it's like, "I know you from somewhere, right?" And Neil immediately, "Well, you stole my cab." And finally, it clicks for Dell, and he's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
You're the guy that tried to steal my cab.
Yeah. And then he goes, "Oh, come to think of it, it was awful easy to get a cab during rush hour." And then, of course, he's very apologetic. Let me make it up to you. Let me get you a beer and a hot dog. And Neil's like, "No." And then he goes, "Well, just a hot dog then. Coffee, tea, milk, soda, some lifesavers, a Slurpee."
He's like, no, I'm good. I'm good. Just
Yeah, and he's. I mean, do you think John Candy ad-libbed all that? They just kind of went into it. Oh,
possibly.
beer, I'll like a beer and a hot dog. And he's like, "Oh, just a beer." And then he just kind of just kept going, coffee, milk, soda, tea, some lifesavers.
Yeah.
And so it ends with John Candy being like, I knew you.
Yeah.
All excited like they're buddies.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the greatest character meets I've ever seen in a movie. Where you have, two characters that are supposed to be together in the movie, but you have to introduce them.
Yeah.
And so we are on the plane now, and Neil's not getting his seat in first class, and he is not happy about it.
No, he's not. It's his first class seat that he booked and paid for over a month ago.
Yes, and she's like, "Oh, well, save your seat, and you can get a refund on the difference." And he's like, "I don't want the refund. I want my seat." And then you get this flight attendant that comes on, and he's all flirty with the other flight attendant lady, and he's like, "Oh, where can I sit?" And she's like, "Oh, here, there, anywhere is fine." Which just kind of digging at Neil, and he
Right. The reason he's not getting his first class seats because this guy's here getting whatever seat he wants.
yeah, that's a takeaway. And so we end that scene with first you delay me, then you bump me. I can't wait to see what happens next. And wouldn't you know it, he's got the seat right next to his old buddy Dell.
Yep.
And then we have another quick clip of an airport signs, flight signs, and
Yeah.
it's starting to show them going from delayed to canceled. And I'm assuming they're showing O'Hare, Chicago,
Yeah.
where they're trying
Yeah.
to.
They're showing oh, Chicago. No, they're showing O'Hare in Chicago.
The O Chicago airport.
So yeah, because it was the arriving flights that was canceled.
Right. And so after that, we cut to the airplane, and we get Neil and Dell. They're actually properly introducing themselves to each other.
Right, because they're sitting next to each other at this point.
Yeah, well, we find out that Neil is in marketing, and Dell sells shower curtain rings.
Yes.
Best in the business.
The very best.
Yeah, just ask him. Then Dell decides to get comfortable. Now, Rachel and I talked about this. Okay, you got a guy next to you on the plane because Dell takes his shoes
Yes.
off, and he's like, "Oh, my dogs are barking today." And Rachel's like, "Gross," and I'm like, "Hold on, busy, been a long day. You're on a flight. I'll forgive the shoes coming off. That I
Really?
get. I might forgive that if it's not too terrible. If there's not too terrible an odor, they look like uncomfortable shoes. And he's been lugging that I tripped over the. Well, I guess he doesn't know about the trunk yet, or hasn't pieced together the trunk. It's holiday travel, man. Your feet must be tired. If you want to go ahead and take your shoes off and your feet don't smell too terrible, I'll cut you a break on that.
Okay, but
But when he takes off his sock and starts fanning it right there,
whipping it around.
yeah, that's yucky. You keep your socks on.
Yes.
You have a little bit of tact. Like me, I have slip-on shoes. Like if I'm on an airplane, sometimes I mean it's kind of yucky to do, but like I might slip my shoes off if I was on a really long flight. But anyway, and unfortunately, on the DVD that I watched, you don't get the scene that you get when you watch it on the cable we cut to, because we're cutting to nighttime now.
Yeah.
And they're on the plane. It's dark. Neil's reading. The old man is sleeping on his shoulder. If you catch it on the cable, the old man there's a scene with the old man there, like hacking up lungs and
Oh
whatnot.
yeah, where he's hacking up in Neil's face, basically coughing.
Yeah,
That's not
and
on
then
the DVD you watched.
there is, yeah, a little bit of it, but there's a whole extended part that you see on the cable that you don't get on the DVD.
Okay.
And then you get Dell, and Dell opens his eyes, looks up at him, and says, $6 as we're not landing in Chicago.
Oh. Yeah.
But we cut to Neil's wife. She said she'd wait up for him in the last scene she was in, and she's there
Yeah.
watching TV, and the phone rings, and Neil's calling. And I never liked this scene because he calls to tell her that he's in Wichita. And
Yeah.
she's like, "What are you doing in Wichita?" And he's like, "There was a storm in Chicago. We couldn't land there. They had to have us land in Wichita." And she's all suspicious, like, "What's going on?"
Yeah. That's a
Weird.
little weird.
It was a little weird. And so yeah, he hangs up the phone, and then Dell meets up with them, and they're discussing the situation. And Neil's like, "Are you telling me I could be stuck in Wichita?" And Dell's like, "No, I'm telling you, you are stuck in Wichita."
Yeah, there's no flights going out.
And then, pretty much right after Dell finishes his sentence, we get Ben Stein,
Yes.
who was also in Ferris Bueller.
He was. He was his teacher.
Yes. And we get
Bueller.
Ben
Bueller.
Stein,
Bueller.
and Ben Stein announces that all flights to Chicago are hereby canceled.
He was also in the Wonder Years.
Yippee. Then we cut back to Neil on the phone trying to get a hotel room with no luck. He runs into Dell. Dell asks if he had any luck getting a room. No, he didn't. And Dell's like, well, you called home, I called the Braidwood Inn, but I know the manager there. I sold them all their shower curtain rings. If you pick up the cab fare, I'll make sure you get a room for the night. Sounds like a pretty sweet gig.
Yeah, it sounds like a very sweet gig.
So we see Neil ponder it real quickly, sees a guy sleeping in the airport, and it's like, yeah, you know what? That sounds good to me. Then we cut to the inside of Doobie's Taxiola.
Doobie's Taxi. Or we get
It's
another cameo.
where we get a cam. You want to introduce this guy?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You
I didn't mean to take it.
go ahead.
I was just
I get
saying,
'em- I get a lot of them. Go ahead and take this one.
we get Larry Hankin,
Yes.
as I think he's been a cameo before we mentioned. He's Mr. Heckles from Friends.
Yes, he is. He's also um Dispatch in Home Alone.
Yes. Yes, he is Dispatch in Home Alone.
He's the guy eating a donut and then drops the donut on his phone.
Talking to Hyper online too.
Yeah. He was also in Seinfeld.
Yes, this guy, Larry, has been in a lot of different things.
Yeah, what was he in on the podcast that we mentioned him in?
He was in Vegas.
Yeah, he was. He was one of the old guys on the bus. Are you looking up what he's been in?
I was.
Okay.
He was a preacher
He
in
was a
Vegas
preacher in
Vacation.
Vegas Vacation.
Yes, he was a preacher in Vegas Vacation.
Was he also on the bus?
No.
Moving on. So they're driving in Doobie's Taxiola.
Do you remember the
And-
preacher?
I do. He was at the end. He remarried them.
Yes.
Thank you. Neil's growing impatient with how long it's taking to get to the motel. And Dell's like, Doobie's much farther. And apparently Doobie's taking the back roads because Neil has never been to Wichita. And you don't see anything on interstate but interstate. And he figures Neil might want to look around.
Right, because Doobie's proud of his town.
Doobie is ripping him off. That's what Doobie's doing.
Time and mileage.
There it is. So they get to the hotel. Motel, I apologize.
This isn't a hotel.
There's nothing hotel about this place. Yeah, they roll up, they get out. Doobie says he'll get the stuff, and they go in there, and there's some nice banter between Dell and Gus.
Yes, Gus is the man that owns the hotel or the motel.
We keep saying
That Dell knows.
hotel.
It's not a hotel.
I do not think this word means. No, I can't even do the line.
I do not think it means what you think it means.
But it sounds like they're all buddies, and Dell talks him into getting Neil a room also, and then come to find out. So then Neil ends up paying for his room, and come to find out they get the last room in the complex. So now Neil has paid for the cab fare and the room.
Yes, and with the Dale gives his credit card, Neil gives his credit card, they get swapped, and Neil ends up with Dale's card, and Dale ends up with Neil's card.
Right. Yeah. That's how that happens.
Because when he's trying to run it, he moves the cards around, and
Sets them back down, and they just pick them up without looking at them.
Right.
They just happen to have the exact same credit card.
It's like a diner club card or something.
Yeah. Anywho, so they have to share a room. They get to their room. There's only one bed.
And it's a full-size bed. It's not even a queen.
No, it is a little bed. And
Not quite,
so
not a twin, but it is a full-size bed.
full size, yes.
Yes.
It is bigger than a twin, smaller than a queen. If you can picture what that looks like. It's made for two people.
Yes.
Ish.
Ish.
And so you get a little bit of it's kind of awkward because they're like, we gotta share a bed.
Right. Right. Now, something in this scene that I had heard about before and I didn't see till this viewing of it was on the wall of the headboard of the bed. It's got the picture that's up there.
Yeah?
On either side of the picture are kind of smudgy handprints from taxes.
No.
Yeah.
Fun fact.
I like fun facts. What's up?
There is now a 3-hour director's cut of the film.
Really?
Yes,
That's cool.
it is.
There was now a 3-hour cut.
Yeah, 3 hours.
Interesting.
So they get in there. It's awkward, and they Dell asks if Neil wants to take a shower or go first. Neil's like, "Oh no, you go ahead." And so we cut to Neil in the shower,
Yes,
and
and I have
it
something
kind
to
of
say about this
I
in a
do
minute.
too, and it cuts
Okay.
back and forth to Neil's in the shower cleaning up. Dell is on the bed smoking a cigarette, puts a coin in the vibrating bed thing, and just he's full on relaxing,
Yeah, the
wearing
bed
his
massager.
yeah, and he's full on relaxing, he's into his pajamas that perfectly match the decor in the bedroom.
Yes.
And then we go back to Neil in the shower. Go ahead.
This scene is great for the reveal because when he gets out, um, you see the bathroom is in disarray from Dell, um, using up all the towels, making a mess, leaving his stuff everywhere. But he would have seen that going into the shower.
Right. No, I have that in my notes. Did Neil not notice Dell destroyed the bathroom pre-shower?
Right. It's like he teleported into the shower and then, then was privy to what Dale was doing.
Or did they swap? That's the only other
Dale
explanation.
gets out of the shower, wraps the towel around him, and
And
Neil
Neil
goes in
with a
while
towel wrapped
Dale.
around himself and
No.
no.
No. It was a scene put together for the reveal, because he's now drying himself off with a washcloth.
Right.
Because every other towel has been used and is damp, very damp,
Soaked.
soaked, you might say.
No, soaked I did say.
Yeah, yeah. You can see the water squish out when he steps on things.
It dries himself off with a washcloth.
Yeah.
So then we cut to bedtime where they're in bed trying to go to sleep, and like we find out that the beer cans exploded. So now Neil has to sleep in a puddle of beer.
Yeah.
I had no idea those beer cans would explode like that. You left them on a vibrating bed. What did you think was gonna happen?
And it's great because the one scene ends with him just drying off, and then they're in bed, and you can tell Neil's grumpy. You're like, okay, he's obviously grumpy about the bathroom thing, and then it just drops the bomb of like, well, this happened. We didn't get to see, and now he's really angry.
Right? And then Dell offers the switch. He's like, "No, I just want to go to sleep."
Yeah.
Dell's like, "Me too. I am bushed." And so what does he do? He picks up a pamphlet, lights his lighter, and starts reading.
Yeah.
And it's like, just go to sleep, Dell.
Yeah.
Just go to bed.
It's bedtime, Dell. Go to bed.
Go to sleep. Stop making noise.
And noise is made.
Yeah. And then we cut to Neil's wife, and she's doing something. I didn't write it down.
Like she's just watching TV in bed.
Yeah. Some not important to the
No,
story.
we just gotta cut back to the family and make sure they still miss Neil.
Well, we gotta remember that they're there. I guess. I don't know. So we come back to Dell and Neil trying to sleep in the bed. And Dell's cracking himself.
Yeah, it's cracking his knuckles, cracking his neck, clearing out his sinuses.
And then he starts scratching. And I put in my notes, go to sleep, Dell.
Just go to sleep.
All you have to do is go to sleep and it's fine. But no. Then he has to clear his sinuses.
Yep.
And that pushes Neil over the edge.
That is fair.
It is. And and Dell kind of has the audacity to get indignant.
Yeah, it's like, what? I have to do it, otherwise I get stuffy.
And then Dell's like just starts to kind of attack his character.
Yeah,
Like, you're not a very tolerant person, and he's like, "What are you talking about? Yeah, you drink, yeah, you spilled beer all over the bed, you smoke, you destroyed the bathroom, you made me pay for the cat fare and the room."
Yes. And all of the resentment and frustration from Neil is coming out now.
Yeah. And he start. I mean, Neil is just venting everything. He's talking. He's going back to the plane ride, which I get it. I mean, we saw it in the beginning when they introduced themselves to each other, and Neil's like, "I'd really like to just read my article. A friend wrote it."
Yeah, in a very Bugs Bunny move, he's like, "Oh, you don't know have to worry about me. I know when to shut up. If you tell me to shut up, I'm gonna shut up."
You catch me mouth poking on the You just give me a poke of it. You're just like he just keeps going, and he was so good at it too. And then, I mean, and this is probably the point of the scene, because it gets to a point of where, like, it seems like he's vented everything, and he's
Yeah.
calm now, and then he just keeps going
Yes,
because
he's at this point he's just being mean because
he's
he's
done venting stuff.
yeah.
It seems like he got to the point where he vented enough to feel better or calm down.
Yeah.
And now he's like, you know what? I'm just gonna keep. Oh, and by the way,
Yeah. If you tell a story, make it have a point. It's so much more interesting when it does.
yeah, yeah. Not everything's an antidote. You have to discriminate. You choose things that are funny or mildly amusing. You're a miracle. Your stories have none of that. They're not even amusing accidentally. Which, you know, it's very hard to be that mean and flip out like that and still be likable.
Yeah.
Steve Martin can do it. Chevy Chase, not so much.
Very true.
But then we cut to Dell's face. He's been hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Did you have something? You looked like you weren't done.
No, I mean more of it is just saying what Neil says and
So yeah, Dell's been wounded.
yeah.
And we get a nice kind of a self-aware, not quite apology from Dell. Like where
Yeah.
he acknowledges that he talks too much. And then, it ends with, you want to hurt me, go ahead if it makes you feel better. But I'm not changing. I like me. My wife likes me. My customers like me. I'm the real deal.
That's what you get. I'm not pretending to be anybody.
Yeah. And then he goes back to bed. And Neil, you get that thought of Neil, that realization that he went way too far. And you see him look over at Dell, and Dell's doing that little kid, like, peeking to see it.
Right. He just kind of turns over because he's got his back to him and he turns over and looks over his shoulder
Yeah.
and then turns back like he's pouting again.
Yeah. Very cute. And Neil goes back to bed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then a thief breaks in and robs him.
Yeah. Of everything going on.
Oh, this is just the beginning, too.
Oh, yeah. It is. We haven't even touched on this movie.
No. Oh, boy. So we get to the next morning, and we get one of the most iconic, awkward scenes of any movie ever.
And it's great.
It's so good. Because you got they're cuddling.
Yeah, they're spooning.
Yeah. Yep, spooning real good.
Neil's little spoon.
Yep. Dell's starts kissing his ear. And they're kind of in that haze of when you're first waking up from a dream,
Yeah.
and they were clearly both dreaming about being home.
Yeah. Yeah. Neil's smiling and is like, oh.
Yeah, and then that further wake up happens, and it's like, Dell, and you can tell he's so dreamy because he's like, huh? Like, wait, what? It's
Yeah.
like, why are you why did you kiss my ear? And I was like, well, why are you holding my hand? And where's your other hand? Between two pillows. And you see the realization hit of like, those aren't pillows, buddy. And then they jump out at the realization that they are not that close of friends.
Nope.
They are still relative strangers, and that's uncomfortable.
Yep. Yep. They get up and start talking about the Bears.
Start talking football because
Yep.
it's the 1980s and they're from Chicago. They get up, they get dressed, they go to the diner for their breakfast. It's like right across the street from it or something, or next
Yeah.
door. And is it just me, or could you smell this scene?
Yeah. Those diners, the good breakfast. It's probably a place that has on the menu breakfast, $6.
No, it's fancier than that. But no,
Like,
I could smell exactly what that diner smelled like.
yeah,
That whole scene, a a breakfast. It's a diner, duh. But you could smell everyone's food. You could heavily smell the coffee and cigarettes,
like a Denny's.
like a Denny's back in the day. And I don't know why, but to me, that smell, we missed a scene.
What scene?
The next morning when Neil's washing his face
Oh
and
yeah.
Dell's socks are in the sink, and then he dries his face with Dell's underwear. Now you're all caught up. But that smell of the diner, I had to throw the diner in there so you didn't think it was underwear and dirty socks.
Good catch.
I don't know. There's something about that smell of like the late 80s, early 90s where you could just, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the
Oh,
fact
I know what you mean.
that we did that so often with grandma and grandpa and mom and dad going to diners,
Yeah,
and it just smelled like that
you just got that
nostalgic.
greasy greasy spoon smell.
Yeah, that whole morning cigarette and coffee, probably from all the
Yeah,
camping. It's probably from all the camping with grandma and grandpa.
that could be.
The motorhome probably always smelled like breakfast, coffee, and cigarettes. It was the 80s and 90s. Give me a break.
You mean cigarettes and vodka?
No, grandpa would go around the back of the motorhome to drink his vodka. And he didn't drink vodka, it was whiskey.
Okay.
He kept his whiskey back there. R&R. So anyway, the check arrives and Dell reaches for it, but Neil gets there first and he goes, "I've paid for everything else on this trip. Why break precedent?" Goes into his wallet, discovers his wallet's empty, and immediately blames Dell for it, which bummed me out.
Yeah,
Like, if you rob somebody, you're not going to just be there and go to breakfast with them.
right.
You're most certainly not going to let them pay.
Right. It wouldn't be. I mean, yeah. It's like go ahead, open your wallet, see what's in there. Ha I took
Yeah.
it all.
But he's like, yeah, he's like, you know what? And he's like, I'm sorry, I don't care for the accusation. And it reveals that like you went into my wallet last night for pizza, and your mom going, what? This guy
Yeah.
has his own money, his own wallet, and he's getting money for pizza from
Yeah.
like what's happening here?
Yeah. It's just kind of a weird.
It's a weird exchange, and I kind of don't like it.
That's fair. But Dell's like, here, count my money. If there's a penny more than like $263 or something,
Something like that.
then you can call him a thief. He's like, here, I didn't take it. It's like, oh, there's nothing in here.
And
He's
I was
like,
like,
what?
we were robbed.
He's like, do you think so?
But it's like, what's with the attitude? You sat there and just blamed that guy for the last 2 minutes. And now you're gonna be mad at him for being a little late to the party?
Yes.
So
It's
we
par
cut to
for the
them.
course.
It is. Neil's a jerk.
Yeah, but a lovable one.
He is. Likable. Dell's lovable.
Okay.
So we cut to the front of the Braidwood Inn again. And they're coming up with a game plan on how they are going to get themselves home.
Yes.
So Dell doesn't have credit cards.
He had one at one point.
He did, but he doesn't mention that this time.
Nope.
He's got a Neiman Marcus card, and he's got a Sven's Big and Tall or something like that. It's
Yeah,
a
place
7-Eleven
out of
chain out of the Pacific Northwest. Great stuff, but unfortunately, this is no good here.
yeah.
Anyway, so it's revealed that they're waiting for Gus's son. If you don't remember who Gus was, he is the hotel owner,
Yes.
and he's going to give them a ride into Wichita to catch a train.
Gus's son Owen.
Gus's son Owen, and Owen shows up about this time, and he is what you would call real backwoods.
Yes. And I had it.
He was Dr. Connors in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy.
Yes, he was. I was gonna say his name first, but yes.
Okay, now say his name.
Hang on. It went away.
I was stalling so you would get there, and we didn't have to do this waiting.
Oh, Dylan Baker.
Dylan Baker. I don't know why I repeated it like that.
He played Dr. Kurt Connors in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man trilogy.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
And he is just fantastic in this.
Yes, it shows. I mean, it shows his acting chops.
Yeah. You shout, curtain fella. He does the same sight as clear thing.
Yeah, he does.
Uh, and he rolls up and
It's
Neil's
a
like,
pickup truck.
it's a Frankenstein pickup truck.
It is.
And Neil's like, this isn't him. And I was like, oh, I hope not. And he gets out and he stands there and spits his tobacco. And then he's like, are you Owen? Because you shower curtain fella. Then they shake hands and he shakes Dell's hand.
Yep.
Spits, wipes the spit off on the with his hand, wipes all the tobacco spit off. Immediately shakes Neil's hand, who, if you remember, forgot his gloves.
Yep.
But he ain't gonna be rude to the guy, so he just grits his
Grins and
teeth.
bears it.
Yep. And we get, I'm to take you to Wichita. And he's like, yeah, that'd be great, thanks. Train don't run out of Wichita, unless you're a hog or a cattle. People train run out of Stubbville. Just because I love the way he said it.
Stubbsville.
So they're like, that's fine. Let's go. And then he yells at his wife to stop being lazy, even though she's like nursing a baby, and get the trunk up in the back. And they're like, no, dude, it's fine. And he's like, oh, she don't mind. She's strong. Her first baby come out sideways. She didn't scream or nothing.
This mean little woman jumps out of the.
She is angry looking. She looks
Yeah,
like she could beat them all up and not even think twice about it.
looks like she's thinking over some of her life choices.
All of her life choices. So we cut to them riding in the back of the truck.
Right, because they grab the truck. Oh no, we got it.
Yeah. They grab the trunk, they throw it up there, and they climb in the bed of the pickup.
They toss everything to the back.
And they're driving down the road, and Adele reveals that Stubbville's a little farther than Wichita, about 40 miles. So it's another hour back there.
Yep.
Neil sees a pair of gloves, goes to grab them. A dog jumps up out of under the hay that's in the.
The most patient dog ever that didn't scoff at a trunk or bags getting tossed around the back of it.
Or people climbing in over it.
Right, or just as soon as he goes for the gloves, those are that dog's gloves. It's like, no touchy.
That's the only thing in life that dog cares about is those gloves.
Again, another good scene for the reveal, but
But don't you think they'd be like, oh yeah, watch out for my.
you're just gonna toss the trunk back here.
Well, well,
You're not even saying words.
but like, my dog is somewhere under all this hay. Don't step on him. He'll bite you.
It just appears that little hay pile.
So Neil doesn't get the gloves.
Nope. And the dog is staring at him the whole time now.
Yeah.
The dog has been awoken and is on guard mode.
Yeah. that made some really, really weird noises.
Yeah, you did. Like I said, you weren't even saying words.
I thought they were words.
You'll hear.
So they make it to Stubbville.
Yes. They are frozen.
The dog.
They're all frosty faced. The dog, the Neil and Dell. The dog's got
The
this
Neil.
growl, the scowl on its fake little teeth.
Oh. So they get their tickets for the train. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, they don't have two seats together.
Now, I watched this scene and stopped and went back and watched it again to see if there was an area where there's like two empty seats next to each other, just to see if it was something that Neil was saying, which I'm sure it was. But
Right. Yeah. Because Dell's like, oh, hey, because they're saying their goodbyes.
yeah,
And Dell's like, oh, I'll meet you on the train for at the bar car
at
or
the drink
something.
at the bar car for a drink.
Yeah. And Neil's like, oh, no thanks. I'm just going to get some sleep.
Yeah, it was a
So,
rough night and the long drive in the back of the pickup.
yeah. So that's kind of that for them. And then you kind of get a little music montage of them riding the train. You see Neil talking to the lady next to him, going all Dell on her.
Yeah.
And then the train breaks down.
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
I mean,
That
it was
cuts.
going for maybe about a half hour, you think?
Yeah, half hour.
They didn't get far, but far enough to be inconvenient.
Well, because then they're going to what is it, St. Louis,
Yeah.
or close to St. Louis?
Yeah, I think that's where they head next.
Yeah. So because you see Neil talking to the guy, and he's like, "You walk about a mile up the road, and the bus will take you into St. Louis."
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a bus station a mile down the road, and they go from there to St. Louis, Missouri.
Well, I think that was where the buses was gonna meet them because when the train started breaking, they radioed in and said, "Hey, we need a pickup or something."
Maybe, yeah. So we Neil spots Dell struggling with carrying his trunk across the rocks,
Yep. Yep.
and
He's
he's kind of like, "How did I get stuck with this guy?" And he goes and helps him picks up the other side of the trunk, and they start carrying it together. And did you notice the trunk was upside down?
yes, I did. It's a hearty trunk.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter what way you carry it. But we cut to the bus station. What are you making faces for?
Huh?
It's video. I can see you.
No faces. No reason, I should say.
So we get just a little short scene of them at the bus station, and Dell asks Neil if he's ever traveled. He's in a pretty bad mood, and Neil's like, "Yeah, I am." And Dell asks him if he's ever traveled by bus before, and he goes, "No." And then Dell follows up with, "Mood's probably not going to improve very much." And did you see the guy sitting next to them had a shoebox and two mice on his knee?
I did not see that. That's great.
So then we cut to on the bus.
Yes.
And in the 80s, you could just smoke wherever you wanted to smoke.
Yes, you could. Yeah. You could basically smoke anywhere. I mean, they had smoking sections, and I'm using air quotes for that because really, if you're smoking indoors, everything's a smoking section. It's just not as close as in your face.
Sure. But, I mean, did they even have non smoking sections in the 80s? So was that a 90s thing?
I'm sure they did. Maybe.
Yeah. But yeah, so, I mean, and like, I quit smoking this December. It'll have been 6 years since my last cigarette.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, actually, that's only like 3 weeks away now. But I tell you, like, you catch a whiff of it, or you like this movie, especially John Candy. Every time John Candy lit a cigarette, I was like, "That's why I started."
Because John Candy looks so cool.
No, because it just looks so good.
Does it though?
Oh my gosh, it looks so good. The whole movie, every time John Candy lit a cigarette, I missed it.
I, I, I think that says more about the smoking addiction than it does the starting of smoking.
Fair enough. The addiction's real. If you're listening, don't smoke. It's horrible. It is absolutely awful. It really is. It took me multiple forever to quit. And here it is, 6 years, 90% of the time, I have no desire to smoke. And you catch a glimpse of it or you catch a whiff of it, and your brain's like, remember why did we stop doing that?
Like that was fun. Like, was it fun? Yes, yes, it was. Do it again.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Anyway,
That was a weird tangent.
it was relevant to the movie, right?
Right. You're like, gosh, I miss it.
No, I'm fine.
So they're on the bus.
You're on the bus, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Dell is eating some Cracker Jacks or peanuts. He's eating peanuts.
Okay,
I don't know why he's eating peanuts. And he's just throwing the shell on the floor.
that's what you
And then
did in the '80s.
I guess so. And then in the seat adjacent to them, there is a young couple getting acquainted with
Yep.
each other. And Neil gets caught staring at it.
Some litigation prep.
Litigation, yeah, they're beginning the litigation process publicly.
Yes.
And yeah, Neil gets caught. Dell laughs at him, and then they light up cigarettes. A lot of cigarettes in this movie.
It's the '80s.
Good old 80s. And then it cuts to later on the bus ride, and apparently there's a sing along happening.
Yes.
When I rode the Greyhound from Montana, there was no sing along.
Well, you're not Del Griffith.
That's true. I would be more like Neil Page, where he tries to sing, who's got the next one? Neil Page. Neil Page has got one. 3 coins in a fountain.
Yep.
Each one seeking happy. The seeking happiness.
Frank Sinatra.
Then no one liked it, and then Dell chimes in with Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones, and a modern Sunny family. And that apparently is gold, because the bus is singing along.
Yeah. Show tunes are always good for sing along.
Apparently.
Sinatra,
know how
not
many
so
s-
much.
Yeah, I don't know how many sing-alongs you have with show tunes, but I'll take your word for it.
A few.
Phew. Cool. So then we get into St. Louis, and Dell is selling shower curtain rings as earrings.
Yep. Anything to make a buck.
Yeah.
buck.
And Neil, cuts to Neil on the phone. He's calling home. No one's answering. We find out that his daughter is at her Thanksgiving pageant, and she's thankful that her dad is coming home for Thanksgiving, and she does not blink once.
Did that bother you? Uh,
Then we cut to Dell and Neil sitting down having lunch.
yes. In an awkward scene.
It is very awkward.
It's a good scene, but it's the awkwardness is not of how it's shot. It's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to say. The scene itself is awkward, not that it's awkward. You know what I mean?
Right. Because it seems like they're actually getting along, and then Neil just kind of drops this bomb, like because if they're talking, right, and Neil's
Yeah, it's
come to the realization, and he's like, man, I've been spending too much time away from home, and Dell's like, oh yeah, I haven't been home in years,
Yeah,
and Neil's like, what? No, seriously? Dell's like, no, figure of speech.
Yeah.
And he's on the road so much doing this shower curtaining.
it just feels
And,
like years.
Right. And so then Neil's kind of like, basically what he does is he puts the blame of the troubles all on himself to dump Dell.
Yeah, he's like, man, we're awful together. I'm holding you back. I think we should split up and go our separate ways to get to where we need to be.
And Dell's just kind of over it, and he's like, yeah, okay. Yeah, whatever you say, sure.
He's like, oh yeah. Here, let me pay for my bit and get out of here then, because I got a thing to catch.
Right. Yeah. And Dell it's pretty obvious that Dell knows what he's doing.
Right.
And so they part ways, and we cut to Neil getting dropped off at his car rental and being told that His car is in V5, and he gets to V5, and there is no car in V5,
There
and
is no car there.
and you can see the skid marks of where that car was stolen. And so
Yes.
he runs after the bus. The bus does not see him, hear him, or care.
In my mind, the bus driver is laughing as he sees him run in the rearview mirror.
Possibly not out of the realm of possibilities.
Nope.
So this causes Neil to break.
Yes. This
Because
is
now
his
he
second
has
break of the trip.
yes, and now he has to walk back. So he walks back to the car rental place, and we see him walk montage style.
Yes, this this is the same day that they woke up in the hotel. We
Yes,
haven't
it
had
is.
another night yet. It's been a long day of train, bus, dinner, making Dell feel sad, ending up at a car rental place to not have your car there.
This is all one whole bad day.
It's been a long day for Neil.
And this car was his glimmer of hope that he would be able to drive to Chicago.
Yes.
And that glimmer of hope is kicked and stomped into the ground.
Yes.
Now he's got to walk back to the car rental place to try to get another car and then have to go back to the lot, is what he's thinking.
Yes. Yes. He's at his boiling point. He's
And
walking back, sliding
he
down snowy hills.
losing his hat.
Yes, losing his hat to a car.
That car runs over it and just takes it with it.
It's gone.
So he has no hat. So now his head's cold.
Yes.
And so he makes it back. And he's first in line, and we get the great Edie McClurg.
Yes.
Fun fact,
I like fun facts.
her line at the end of this awful exchange
Yeah.
is her most requested line from fans when they meet her.
Really?
Yes.
That's fantastic.
And then finally she's talking to her family and about Thanksgiving, and she does this weird little gobble gobble
Gobble gobble.
and makes a turkey noise and hangs up the phone and takes one look at Neil and and knows this guy's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, her smile slowly fades from her face.
And she says, "Welcome to Marathon. May I help you?" And he goes, "Yes." And she goes, "How may I help you?" And he goes into very deep detail on exactly how this nice lady can help him. And that exchange is why the movie is rated R.
Yes.
I wish I could own a version of the movie that did not have the language here.
I don't know if they make one.
Yeah, I might just have to fast forward through it.
Uh,
But
are you gonna tell them what the exchange is?
18 uses of the F word in under a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she asks for his rental agreement, and he says he threw it away, and she returns with one expletive of her own.
You're expletive.
Yeah. So we cut to Neil trying to get I guess it's a taxi,
Yeah, he's trying to get a taxi.
and then so he asks there's like a head of the taxi station. He goes, "Where are you going?" And that's where he's going. He tells him to go to Chicago, and the guy's like, "You know, you're in St. Louis," and Neil mouths off to this guy, and the
He's
guy
still in a
hits
really
him.
bad mood.
He's
Yeah.
not in a great mood, and the guy punches him, knocks him flat into the street, and he almost gets run over by a guy driving erratically. And guess who that guy happens to be? It's Dell. I won't
It's
bury the lead.
Dell.
And so Dell and the taxi guy have
Some choice words.
some words for each other, and I like, what is your problem, you insensitive jerk?
Yeah, and the guy's just trying to tell Dill to get the car out of there too. It's like,
Yeah,
you can't park here.
we've got an injured man down on the street, and I'll move my car, but I want you to help him up.
He's like, "Oh, my pleasure," and he grabs his grabs his glove and tightens it, pulls it up tight on his hand.
Yep.
And Neil's like, "No."
And we get a Mister's joke.
Yes.
It kind of lands.
It 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 does because it's an intentional as opposed to the accidental Mister shot. It's the,
Yeah.
"Okay, I'll help him up, but I'm gonna pick him up by his boys."
And then I think what really makes it work is the next scene. Yes, I understand it is a very juvenile joke for all you listening. It's juvenile, it's overplayed, it's overdone, it's, ha ha ha, whatever. Don't care. I apologize. This one's funny because it cuts to the next one and his voice is pitched up.
Yeah, it's like he's been sucking on helium. And Dale
And so the Mister's joke ended up him getting picked up that way is not what's funny. It's the combination with his voice talking to Dell in the next scene that is the laugh.
Yeah. I mean, hitting him getting dragged out of the street too is pretty
Apparently you're more mean spirited than I am.
Apparently.
So Dell
Sorry.
makes fun of him for a little bit while they're driving down the road. They're chatting. Oh, you know how great I am. I could have crushed. You know how great I am. And glad I am that I didn't crush your head like a melon. And Neil's like, glad I would have been if you had. And so we cut to later that night. Neil's driving now, and Dell is trying to get comfortable. He's messing with the electric car seat, and they start arguing.
Yeah, he's you can hear the whirring of the seat as it goes up and then back and then up and then back, and Neil's like, "Stop it, you're gonna break it."
Yeah. And Dell's like, you can't bring a car seat. It's impossible. Which I don't know about that.
Yeah. He's like, "I'm just trying to get comfy, hang on."
Yeah. And then Dell finally gets comfortable, and then he's like, oh, I can't take my shoes off. And Neil's like, that's fine. I don't care to smell your feet. And so they get into a little bickering match. End up getting into a very juvenile bickering match that I won't get into the details of. Then we cut to Dell driving now, and Neil is struggling with the now broken car seat.
I told you, you fiddle with it and you broke it.
At one point he gets shoved up so his face is against the windshield, which I have never had a car seat
Yeah, then
able
it
to
goes
get me there.
drunk,
Then it jolts back and yeah,
kinda sits in place.
yep. And then Neil decides he's gonna take a nap, and he says, "This is my wallet. It's in the glove compartment." That was hard for me to say because I always call it the jockey box. Grandpa
Okay.
Al used to call it the jockey box. Actually, Grandma Twilight and Grandpa Al called it the jockey box. Oh, they babysat me tons growing up, so I always just called it the jockey box. Are you looking it up?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, from what I can see, a jockey box is a cooler with 2 spouts on it for alcohol. So
Thanks, Grandpa.
yeah, jockey box is a insulated container containing ice and water as well as a long coil of hollow tubing. This device is used to cool beverages served on a tap at temporary locations.
A jockey box right here. A jockey box is another name for a car's glove compartment.
Where'd you see that?
Type in jockey box in car.
Jockey box car. Glove box or jockey box.
And then even back into a box in a wagon underneath the driver's seat for carrying small articles. It's the jockey's box.
Jockey box is a Rocky Mountain regional thing. Actual jockey boxes are coolers are coolers. So it's a Rocky Mountain regional thing, which makes sense.
Huh. Well, that makes sense though, because Grandma's from Montana.
Yeah. No, that's why I said it makes sense.
Yeah. So now that we've we've got that topic. I love this podcast.
This one in particular, all of them.
All of them. You never know. Our podcast is like a box of chocolates.
You never know what you're gonna get.
That's right.
Lieutenant
So-
Dan.
No. So Neil's asleep,
Yes, Neil gets his nap
and we have Dell performing.
because this is that.
Yeah, finally that night, and Dell is performing "The Mess Around" by Ray Charles while he's driving
I love this bit.
and smoking.
Yes, and
Eh.
playing the piano dash.
Yes, he's playing piano on the dashboard. It is. That's why I said he's performing, not singing. He is performing.
Yes.
And then he plays the saxophone for a little bit, all while driving down the freeway. And the song ends. So does his cigarette. He flicks his cigarette towards the window. Doesn't make it out the window. It lands in the back seat. We get ominous music.
Because the ominous scene continues.
Right. So then I don't know, a half hour has gone by. 10 minutes have gone by.
Yeah, like 15 minutes or so.
Yeah. And he's starting to get really warm. And so he's taking his coat off and he gets it stuck on the seat hook.
Yeah, the little straps around his wrist. He pulls
Yeah.
one down and gets hooked on the seat lever.
And he's struggling trying to get that free to no success. So he's like, oh, well, I'll just take the other one off and whatever. So he moves the other arm down and gets that caught on something else.
So his arms are basically pinned to his sides,
And he's still driving. And
to which he uses his knees.
yeah. And it's like, bro, pull over. Pull over, take your jacket off.
Yeah, but
You
we
are
wouldn't be
not-
laughing as much if he did that.
Sure, but like you were, well, he's worried about waking up Neil?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, oh,
I don't know.
Neil, let's all possibly die now.
But yeah, he's struggling against his coat, trying to steer with his legs.
Ends up taking an exit.
Yeah.
So he's taking the exit, and that's when he sees the stop sign, and that freaks him out, and he pulls hard enough to rip the little tags off of his coat,
Yeah.
little loops, and he makes like 360 twice. That's 720.
Yeah, it just spins.
And comes to a stop while screaming, and Neil wakes up. He's got the windshield wipers going, and Neil wakes up. He goes, "What's going on?" And he's like, "Oh, we almost hit a deer." And Neil's like, "Oh, okay. Getting warm in here. You gotta take your jacket off."
It's like, I'll
Yes,
do
I
it.
will. Yes, I will. And then he does not, and gets back on the freeway the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so we cut to Neil's back asleep, and he is driving down the freeway, and there's a car that pulls up on the other side of the freeway next to them, and
Yeah.
they start honking at him, trying to get trying to get Dell's attention, and Dell starts honking back at him, like, now you're not worried about Neil getting some sleep?
Yeah.
Like, now it's he doesn't need anyone. He got sleep already. Beep, beep, beep. Like, so anyway, they get each other's attention. They're yelling across the freeway because, of course, you can hear each other.
Yeah.
And you're going the wrong way. And Dell's like, oh, he's drunk. How would he know where we're going? And he was like, hey, you make a good point. How would he
Yeah.
know where we're going?
He's still a little groggy.
Yeah, I'm like, flawless argument right there.
Yeah. How does he know where we're going?
It's like, that's a good point. So then the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit into place for Neil, and he's looking over at him, and they're like, "You're going the wrong way." And Neil's like, "Huh?" Looks down, looks at the road, looks up, and then it clicks. And then he looks forward, and there's semis coming at him that apparently Dell didn't see, so he shouldn't be driving. Period.
Well, Dell's been kind of looking over and mocking them by pretending
yeah.
to drink.
Very, very Chris Farley there.
Yeah.
And, which I don't know if you've driven a lot, but semi trucks almost never just drive side by side down a freeway, down a 2-lane road. That's not a thing. But for this movie, it is, because they go right in between the two of them.
Yeah. And those two so the way it looks like it is that there's 3 lanes there and they're in the middle lane.
But there's not, because then they would have been fine.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's there is sparks just shooting up.
Right, because both the truckers part to get over as far as they can to allow room for them to go through the middle.
Right.
That's what happens, because they're not going to go off the road, so they're doing the best they can, and they just scrape down the middle. Dell turns into the devil.
Yeah, Neil looks over and he's Dell's in a devil costume laughing at him.
And then at one point they're both skeletons,
Yeah.
and then they slam on the brakes. They launch all the stuff out of the trunk.
The big trunk goes flying. It gets air.
It travels for a while, and then Dell flips it around, pulls over on the side of the freeway, and parks it. They both get out and look at it, and Dell's like, "Oh yeah, this is way not nearly as bad as I thought it'd be. They could buff this out, no problem."
As all the all the little bits are curled up, well, the metal bits and the it's all curled
Wood
up and
paneling's
sport.
falling off.
The trim, the metal trim is all
Yeah.
bowed out.
And then
It's like
Dell
a
starts
ribbon that you
right, and then Dell starts laughing, and Neil's like look at him like, "What is funny?" And Dell's like, "No, come on, that was close, huh? Wow, we can laugh about it now. We're all right." And apparently, it's too soon for Neil, so they decide to go get Dell's stuff off the road, which they do.
Yeah.
And they set the trunk down, and they sit on it. And I forgot to mention during that whole exchange with the other driver about the going the wrong way, you can see smoke billowing from the back seat,
Yeah.
which I thought was a nice attention to detail.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, so they're sitting facing away from the car because otherwise this joke doesn't work.
They're
'Cause
chuckling a little bit.
they're not chuckling yet. Dell is.
Yeah.
Neil's not thrilled in the slightest bit. And then the car catches fire.
Yeah, you hear the whoosh.
Yeah, of the ignite.
You can see the light on their backs.
Yeah, and Neil turns around and looks, and then just looks right back forward, and Dell turns and looks, goes, "Huh," and then they both look and finally react, and that's when Neil starts laughing that Dell finally did it to himself,
Yeah.
and starts making a big show out of it, and he goes, "How could you even rent it without a credit card?" And Dell sticking to his, "Oh, I gave the lady behind the counter a set of shower curtain rings." And that's when Neil's smile
Yeah.
fades because he's like, "That's not even close to a real thing that you can do." And so he calls him on it and finds out that Neil's credit card ended up in Dell's wallet. Neil accuses him of stealing it. Dell's like, "I thought you put it there." Neil's like, "What? Put it there?"
I don't know out of the goodness of your heart.
Yeah, he's kindness. And then he grabs him and he starts shaking him and he goes, "Give it back." And Dell's like, "I can't." And shakes him again and goes, "Why not?" And he goes, "Because." And he shakes him again and he goes, "Because why?" And Dell goes, "Because we've stopped to fill up. I put the card back in your wallet." And that's when Neil realizes that his wallet is still in the glove compartment.
They both turn and look at the car.
Yeah. And then Neil buries his head onto John Candy's chest. Dell's chest. And Dell's like, "You mad at me?" And Neil punches him in the gut
Right in the stomach.
and turns to storm off and trips over the trunk and falls. And then we cut to them pulling up in a smoking car to a motel, and Dell is like, "You could have killed me slugging in the gut when I wasn't ready like that. That's how Houdini died." Shout out to Houdini, I guess.
Yeah. Yay, Houdini. I gotta
It was a
pee.
it was appendicitis.
Yes. Well, it was ruptured from the punch to the stomach, but yeah.
The fire's been put out. We also glossed over the fact that when they stopped, Neil pulled his fingers out of the dash, so there are divots of
Yeah.
Neil's fingers there, and Dell bent the steering wheel completely forward,
Yes. Yes.
and so they pull up in the smoking car. They get out, but the steering wheel's still hot because their hands are stuck to it.
Right.
You get that
It's
little
still
bit of
smoldering.
yeah,
The
yeah,
the the ru- the the melted rubber sticking to.
yeah. And so they go in and they order a room, and like 42.50 or something like that.
Something like
And,
that.
and Neil pulls out his credit cards that are burnt to a crisp, and the guy's like, "Yeah, no, that's not a credit card. I can't know." And
Uh,
what?
the guy at the motel is played by Martin Ferrero,
Okay.
and he was the lawyer from Jurassic Park.
Ah, yes, he was. Yeah.
He'd always looked familiar to me, and this last time I was looking at him like, you know what? I know who he is now.
Didn't I never caught
But
that.
yeah, he's the lawyer from Jurassic Park. So I wanted to give him a shout out.
Very good. I'm glad you did. So Neil decides he's gonna pay cash, and that's when he hears it's 42.50, and he's like, "How about $17?"
It's like I can't do that.
Like, yeah, I don't. I'm sorry, I don't own the place. And Neil's like, "Okay, well, $17, and takes off his watch and goes, a very nice and a very nice watch. And we don't get an answer from him. We just see um Neil drive over to a hotel room.
Yeah,
And
he gets in the smoldering car and drives over.
yeah, and then yeah, well, when they first pull up, Dell's like, "If you're still mad at me, but maybe we should get our own rooms." And Neil's like, "Yeah, you get your own room." And Dell's like, "I have a slight problem. I don't have the 42.50." And the guy's like, "Do you have $17 and a nice watch?" And Dell's like, "No, I have $2 and a Casio." And like drags it down his arm, like all showy and whatnot. And the guy's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have to say good night, buddy." And so it shows Neil in his room, and he's trying to call home, but it's a rotary phone. For those of you
It's
who
got
don't know, a rotary phone, it's not push button. It's literally you stick your finger in a hole that corresponds to the number that you want, and then you spin it all the way around and release it. And you do
to
that.
be to be fair. I think everybody that listens to this podcast knows what a rotary phone is.
Maybe not 5 years from now.
Maybe not. You're right. You're right.
That's a rotary phone. But there's a key in two of the holes, so he can't dial without getting the key.
There's a lock in two of the tiles.
That's what I
So
said. There's a lock.
he said there's a key in two of the tiles.
He needs a key to unlock the key in the two tiles.
Yeah. Yes, he's got to. In order to make a call, he would have to pay for the key to get it to unlock the phone.
Yes. He ain't gonna do that because he just spent $17 on a watch.
Yes.
And then we cut to Dell, who is outside in the car in the snow, bundled up, having a dialogue with his wife, who's not there.
Yeah.
And we see that Neil has a change of heart because he's not going to let Dell die in his car.
Because the car's in his name.
And he's gonna have to talk to the cops, and that's gonna take and it's just a whole big hassle if he lets him die out there. No, he has a change of heart because he's a human being and he likes
Yeah.
Dell, whether he's mad at him or not. So he goes to the door and he looks at Dell and says, "Dude, you're gonna freeze to death out there." Then it shows them in the hotel that happens to have two beds. Yay!
Yeah. It's got
A
two
quick-
beds, and I guess they broke open the mini bar.
They did bust open the mini bar because they are drinking alcohol.
Yep. All the little bottles of alcohol.
And they're getting a little toasty.
Uh-huh.
And they are chatting about this adventure that they're on. They chat about their wives. They ask, I think at one point, Neil asks if Doritos and tequila are a good combo. And he's like, no, that's not. But Neil does it anyway. You look like you have something to want to say.
Nope.
Cool. So they decide they're gonna wind down for the night. Um, Dell goes and brushes his teeth. Neil's like, "Why do I feel like I'm at summer camp?" Because they're cracking up. Oh yeah, they're talking about the car and
Yeah.
the giggling at each other. And at one point, Dell's like, "I'm afraid to look at my backside. I'm afraid I'll have those griddle marks across it."
Like a frame boiled whopper.
Yeah. And,
Like a flame broiled whopper.
there you go.
Jeez.
And then Dell comes out of the bathroom. He looks at the lamp. He's like, "How the heck do you turn this thing off?" Sticks his hand up there and gets zapped, and the light goes out.
You're like, ah.
So we cut to the next day, and they are buried in snow. Apparently, a snowplow came through and just buried all the cars.
Yep, that happens.
Yeah, it does. And so Neil's rocking the car. Dell's trying to go forward, it won't go forward. So he's like, hit it in reverse, and then, back up a little bit, then go forward with some momentum. That'll clear the snowbank. Well, Dell goes back too far, and he goes all the way into the room.
Yeah,
Ne-
right through the big window into the motel room.
and Neil goes, "Aw," and Dell goes, "Huh." And then Neil looks around real quick. He's like, "There's nobody here." He's like, "Come on, come on, come on, come on."
Go, 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 go.
They hop in and go. But that's still his room. Of course, he paid cash, so he probably didn't sign anything since the guy took a watch for it.
Yeah, he paid cash and a watch. Then he got a key.
That guy did not write anything up for that room.
Nope.
That guy's got to lose his job, probably.
Maybe. Just say insurance happened. Oh, it was a hit and run.
Fair enough.
What was the car? A Whopper?
So they're driving down the road, singing along to the radio. Of course, I don't hear a radio. I just hear them.
They're just singing.
Yeah. And they get pulled over. For
They
speeding.
they do.
And the cop rolls up, walks up, who is played by
Michael McKean.
Michael McKean, who was, oh gosh, he played Topanga's dad once.
Yes,
in Boy
we
Meets
talked about
World.
this last time he was on the podcast.
What movie was he in last time?
As I mentioned, he was in Spinal Tap.
Yep. And
He was in Airheads.
Airheads. That's right. Yep.
He was Milo, the producer.
That's right. He was. And then I also mentioned that he was Chuck in Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
And so yeah. Actually, I think in Airheads I mentioned that he was the cop in Plane, Trains, and Automobiles.
I believe so.
So Dell tries to let the cop let him go. Doesn't work. They impound the car.
Yeah. He's like, it's not much to look at. All the gauges are melted and none of them work. But the radio's fine, and it'll get you where you need to go.
And he's just like looking at Dell, and he's like, "No, I
It's like,
can't let you drive this. I can't just walk away from this thing on the freeway." Which he is not wrong.
no. Of all the cops we've seen in all the movies we watched, this cop makes a good decision.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, we don't have a good track record for cops in our movies, do we?
If you get caught, I'm saying you stole the car.
Right.
Bees.
I'm allergic to bees. Me too. We'll come back
Come back and check on you. See,
in an hour.
good cop decision.
Yeah. Sure. So the car gets impounded, and Neil's sitting at somewhere. The impound lot? I don't know. They're not trying to get the car back. I know that much.
He's sitting outside the police station
Okay.
because they got dropped off.
Right. And then Dell comes, a big rig comes and it honks, and Dell gets out and he's like, it's out. It's something.
Yeah.
It's nonstop to Chicago. And Neil's like, I don't care as long as the heater works. And Dell's like, well, that's the thing. The driver's a little sketchy about people riding up in his cab, even though Dell just got out of the cab.
Well, he knows Dell.
Well, at least Dell was nice and sat in the back with it. It's a refrigerated big rig.
Right,
They have
right,
to sit
and
in the
he's
back.
sat in the back with him.
Yeah, sure beats walking, huh? Which he's got a point, but like, just shush.
Yeah.
And we finally arrive at the train station in Chicago,
Yes, the L.
the L train. Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
And so now they are saying their goodbyes once again.
Yep. They're they're in Chicago. They're finally they made it.
And they said their goodbyes.
Yeah, they say their goodbyes. He's like, "Hey, let's do this again." He's like, "Hey, let's not."
Yeah, right. And first they shake hands, and then they're like, "Yeah, whatever," and then they hug.
Yeah.
And yeah, because the last time they were on the train, Dell was like, "Oh, I need your address so I can give you back the money for the ticket," and Neil's like, "Nope, it's a gift." So
Yeah.
like they have no way to contact each other still.
Right.
And so Neil gets on the train and he's riding home, and he's he's picturing Thanksgiving dinner, and there's the pie coming out of the oven, the painting the glaze on the turkey, and I am sorry. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nobody does that
Bastes a turkey?
with a paintbrush.
I mean, the if you get the butter stuff, you paint it on there. And
Have you done that? Have you painted a turkey?
no, I have not painted a turkey.
Do you know anybody who has painted a turkey?
No,
Do you know? See, not a thing people do.
maybe Aunt
It's
Barbara.
no. I don't think Aunt Barbara painted a turkey.
It's just a basting brush. You do it with like barbecue and stuff. So you get all the butter and stuff on there, paint it on the turkey, and
It's a paintbrush.
yeah. Now they're made of silicone, but back in the day, they were just paintbrushes that you used to butter turkeys.
I have used a basting brush for like when I'm gonna grill some asparagus.
Yeah, see? Some people just do it on turkeys to get it all the outside all buttery and crispy.
Fine, I concede. You win. So after he thinks about all the food he's gonna eat in a couple hours,
And his family.
and sure, he doesn't. Yeah, I guess he pictures his family his once, I guess. Then he
Yeah,
starts
his
remembering.
daughter and
Yeah,
little Neil, and
Neil Jr. That's right. I forgot the kid's name. We call
well,
him
he's
Matt.
credited as little Neil.
Yeah, Neil Jr. I think it's mentioned,
Yeah.
and his wife, of course. And then they start remembering his trip with Mr. Dell Griffith,
Yep.
and he starts laughing, and then he starts thinking about some stuff that Dell said along the way about
Yeah.
Dell,
The hindsight.
Dell, the hindsight, Dell being away from home all the time. And he's like, and I don't know, I guess he's wondering if Dell's actually going home or not. And so he turns around and goes back to the train station,
Yeah.
and he barges in there, and it's like, dude, you said you were going home. What are you still doing here? And that's where it reveals that Dell is homeless. His wife passed away 8 years prior to this movie, and he as basically just travels around selling shower curtain rings, I guess,
Yeah. Living off
living out of his trunk.
sales. Yeah.
And so we get a kind of a sad face from Neil, and then it cuts to Neil and Dell carrying the trunk, walking down the middle of the road
Yeah.
towards Neil's house.
Yes.
And
Which
which,
it's the same house from Home Alone, right?
no,
Oh.
I didn't recognize the house.
Okay.
But yeah, so Dell's like, I'll only stay for a little bit, and Neil's like, shut up, just come along. And
Oh, the
what?
the house, Neil's house, is in the same location, the same neighborhood as the house from Home Alone, which is why it looks similar, but it's not the same house.
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, Neil tells Dell to shut up and come along, and so they go in the house, and
You're like, I'm done.
and so Neil starts introducing Dell to the rest of his family. Neil's wife comes down the stairs. They
Grand
re
reveal, which
and
seemed
yeah,
odd.
didn't seem like they were married, did it?
It, I don't know. There's the way she comes down and and says it's nice to meet you, Dale. It's like Neil had been talking to her about Dale the whole time during the trip, or he'd been venting about him. It's like, hey, it's finally nice to meet you, or like they knew each other almost.
That's what I thought. I thought that like they actually knew each other. Like there was
Yeah,
a big reveal of where like because he looks up the stairs at her and she stops at the top and looks at him, and so and the way she's like, "Hello, Mr. Griffith," and she's like, he's like, hello, Mrs. Page, and that I swear I don't know if there's any way to find out. I didn't look it up because I'm
I don't know.
stupid.
Watch the 3-hour director cut.
I might have to watch that. But as far as I have always thought my whole life that there was some story behind there and they actually had known each other
Yeah.
prior. But so yeah, Neil and his wife play kissy face for a second, and then we get a freeze frame on John Candy's face, and we roll credits.
Yay!
And if you watch the credits all the way through,
There's an after credit scene.
there is an after credit scene. At the end of the credits, it shows Brian still sitting in his office looking at all those ads with a Thanksgiving spread in front of him.
Does it?
It does.
That's it. That's fantastic.
And that is the end of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Fantastic. Okay, so we might get some more context for the director's cut. It looks like there was a handful of deleted scenes where he actually gets to talk to his wife and talks about Dell.
Okay.
So she's like, "Okay, it's finally nice to meet you."
Okay, so there is a lot of dialogue from the um
But that's why it seems like there's a weird acknowledgement there. Because I remember that standing out to me for as long as I can remember too. It's like that's a weird interaction.
right. And I was trying to look it up and I can't find it anywhere, but I thought I had read it at some point that that the cuz Dell has the picture of his wife.
Yeah.
I thought I had read somewhere that that's actually a picture of John Candy's real life wife,
Oh, okay.
but I can't find anything to confirm that.
Oh, okay. How do we do these? Do we have final thoughts on this for
Yes, we
the
do.
special features? Do you want me to go
Um,
first?
Susan Isaacs is her name,
Okay.
so I'll figure out.
Huh. Final thoughts. I love this movie. Like I said, it's my favorite Thanksgiving movie. It's up there with ones I watch. I don't want to say not regularly because I don't usually watch it outside of November. But it's always a good time. Steve Martin is great in his role as the grumpy guy. The who he does a really good job of being the likable jerk. And he can do that really well. I don't know if it's just because it's Steve Martin that you're like, oh, okay, I forgive what he does because it's Steve Martin, or if he's playing it right. But that's always fun. And this is John Candy at doing some of his best work. So thumbs up. We'll watch again. Love this
Yeah,
movie. Probably put it on this year for Thanksgiving.
yeah. No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It has been a favorite movie of mine forever. I watch it. I watch it even when it's not Thanksgiving.
I mean, we used to when we were growing up because we had the VHS and
Yeah, I mean we'd always watch it around the holidays, but like, I mean, I remember like I'd hang out with Jonathan and I'd spend the night with him at his dad's house, and he and I for like I don't know 6 months, he and I that's the only movie we'd watch. We'd like hang out and be playing or whatnot, and you know, having a sleepover, and like go and watch Plane Trains and I was like, yeah, dude. It's just it's one of those. I think it's one of those movies that no matter where you are or where you came from or what you're doing, the warmth of Steve Martin and the warmth of John Candy together, it makes you feel at home.
yeah,
There's something just warm and comforting about the movie. And like I mentioned before though, the that one part with all with the it's I looked it up, it's actually 19 F words
okay,
in exactly 1 minute. I wish there was a version of that I could get without it. That's my only gripe with it is it's that that stops it from being a movie you can really sit down and watch with the family and feel good about.
yeah,
Um,
I can see that.
but like I said, I would still watch it and just skip over that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not like back in the day where you could catch something on cable or on TV and just have the VHS in and record it off the TV to where it was edited for TV.
true.
So, other than that, it's a holiday favorite of mine. It always has been. I think it always will be. Um, I think there's enough of it that is good quality and wholesome that you can. It's worth cutting out that scene for what the rest of the movie brings.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up.
Yeah, I think that does wrap it up. How do we end these? We don't
Yeah.
tease anything for next time. Happy
No.
Thanksgiving, everybody.
Yes, happy Thanksgiving. Happy Turkey Day. We hope that you
Gobble
are
gobble.
we hope Marshall doesn't keep doing that. And no, we
What?
that high pitched stuff. No.
Gobble gobble.
Um we hope wherever you
Gobble
are,
gobble.
you are having a an enjoyable time with your family or friends or whomever is important to you. We're hoping that you're getting today and this time to spend with them and then just enjoy and appreciate everything that we have or that you may have to be thankful for.
But bazinga.
But we want to thank you for taking the time out of your day or whenever to listen to this episode, listen to us talk about one of our favorite Thanksgiving movies.
Yeah,
If
if
you'd
you're
like to
listening to
reach,
us on Thanksgiving, thank you
yep,
for taking us into your holiday.
of course, yeah, absolutely. Um, you derailed me.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. If you'd like to reach out to us, you can do so. WatchItBroPodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @WatchItBroPod. We're also on Facebook and Instagram under the same handle. Our intro and outro music is provided by Nihilor. That intro being A Fog Too Thick, and that outro being Replaced. And as always, thank you for watching.